Dear one, there is a reason this particular moment feels unlike all the ordinary moments that came before it. If something pulled you toward these words and you cannot quite explain why, do not brush that feeling aside, because underneath the surface of your everyday life, something has already begun shifting the shape of what is coming for you. Long before today started, and even longer before you found yourself reading this exact line, a thought about you settled into someone's heart with a weight that surprised even them. It was not a fleeting impression. It was not something that would fade after a few distracted minutes. Instead, it lingered. It kept returning to their mind, hour after hour, growing heavier and more defined each time it came back. Even right now, as you take in these words, that feeling is continuing to expand somewhere just out of your view. Stay with this, because what is coming next matters. There is someone out there who has reached the point where picturing their own future no longer feels whole unless you are somewhere within it. What catches them off guard is how quickly that shift became something they could no longer talk themselves out of. In the beginning, they tried calling it plain curiosity. Then they downgraded it to simple admiration. After that, they convinced themselves they were only paying attention to small, unimportant details about you. But that story stopped holding together, because every small thing they noticed about you kept turning into something larger and more meaningful in their mind. The way you talk, the pause you take before responding, the way your presence lingers in a room even after you have left it, none of that passed them by untouched. What you may not realize yet is that there was one particular moment that rearranged everything for them. A moment you probably thought was completely unremarkable became something they cannot stop remembering. Something you said, something you did, or maybe just a silence you sat in, made them pause and think in a way they were not prepared for. Ever since then, they have quietly measured every normal day against that one moment. Keep reading, because the part hidden underneath this feeling matters more than you might expect. They are not simply wondering how your day is going. They are wondering what it would look like if your life and theirs started moving in the same direction. That is not a thought that arrived casually. It came after a lot of second-guessing. It came after they questioned themselves internally and tried more than once to talk themselves out of what they were feeling. Even after telling themselves to slow down and stay cautious, the feeling refused to fade. If anything, it became sharper. And here is the part that makes all of this so unusual. They are not only experiencing this on an emotional level, they are thinking about it with real seriousness, quietly and carefully. They notice how being around you brings a kind of peace into moments that would normally feel restless to them. They notice how even the smallest memories that involve you feel far more vivid and meaningful than plenty of bigger moments from their past. Keep going, because this next part matters even more than what came before. Some people pass through someone's attention for a short season and are forgotten. Others are rare, the kind whose presence starts reshaping future decisions before a single word has even been spoken about it out loud. You have become that rare kind of presence in someone's mind. That is part of why they have gone quieter than usual at certain moments, because inside that quiet they are weighing possibilities. They are asking themselves questions they never expected to be facing this soon. They wonder if this is real, if you are meant to become a lasting part of their life, and if this feeling showed up for a reason. Even though none of this has been said to you directly, their actions have already begun giving away pieces of their inner world in small, quiet ways. Maybe they check to see whether you are around more often than they used to. Maybe they hold on to tiny details you mentioned in passing and forgot about entirely. Maybe conversations with you keep replaying in their mind long after they have ended. None of that is accidental. Something in them has started assigning real meaning to you. The reason this feeling keeps intensifying is that they sense something rare surrounding you. something hard to put into words, but impossible to overlook. It is a steady kind of strength. It is a sincerity that is hard to find in most people these days. It is the sense that your presence carries real substance, not just noise or surface-level charm. Stay with this, because something significant is coming. What they feel is not built purely on a passing spark of attraction. It is built on what they believe could hold up beyond shifting moods, beyond temporary excitement, and beyond the fleeting moments that make up daily life. That is why thoughts about a shared future arrived earlier than they expected them to. Sometimes the heart recognizes stability before the mind has found the right words to describe it. Even now, while they might still look uncertain from the outside, internally they are far closer to clarity than you would guess. There is also something they have not shared with anyone else. They have imagined saying all of this to you directly, but every time they picture that conversation, they stop themselves, worried the timing is not right yet. They wonder whether they should say something now, wait a little longer, or protect the feeling a bit more until they understand it better themselves. This hesitation is not a sign of weakness. It means what they feel has become important enough that they are afraid of getting it wrong. Keep reading, because the next part explains why this feeling became too strong for them to keep ignoring. Something happened recently that deepened how certain they feel. It might have been a period of distance, a stretch without hearing from you, or an unexpected quiet. During that gap, they noticed just how loudly your absence spoke to them. Sometimes people only recognize the real value of something once quiet suddenly takes its place. That silence made it clear to them that your presence had already become deeply meaningful in their life. That realization unsettled them because the thought is no longer a simple one. Now it carries genuine weight and real possibility. Once that sense of possibility enters someone's heart, the future stops feeling like an abstract idea. It starts becoming personal. That is why the idea of building something real together arrived sooner than either of you expected. It is not because everything is already settled or decided, but because something in them no longer wants to treat this connection casually. Stay here, because this is only the beginning, and what comes next goes even deeper. What is unfolding quietly behind the scenes is far bigger than what shows on the surface. While you may still be wondering who exactly is thinking about you this deeply, someone has already started to see their own future differently, simply because you have entered into it. There are thoughts they never expected to keep having, yet those thoughts now return to them at the most unexpected times. A simple task gets interrupted because your name crosses their mind. A quiet evening stretches longer because a memory tied to you shows up out of nowhere. Even when they try to redirect their focus elsewhere, something gently pulls them back to the same lingering question. They find themselves wondering why this feels so different from everything they have experienced before. Keep reading, because something important is still ahead. The truth is, they have tried to reason this feeling out logically, but not every meaningful feeling comes with a tidy explanation. Some feelings show up as a sense of certainty first, and understanding only catches up afterward. That is exactly what has happened here. At first they assumed this was just temporary attention. Then they noticed it stuck around, even through hard days, through distractions, and even through distance. That is when they understood that what they feel actually runs deep. What makes it even stronger is that they have started measuring every possible future against one quiet question. Would it still feel complete without you? That question did not leave their mind easily. Stay with this, because the next part changes things. Recently, they noticed something in you that went beyond appearance, beyond conversation, beyond ordinary interest. They notice the way you carry yourself through uncertainty. They notice that even when you are not saying much, there is something remarkably steady about your energy. That steadiness stayed with them long after you had gone. Now, a new thought has taken shape in their mind. Not something passing, but something they keep coming back to very deliberately. They wonder whether this connection arrived for a reason worth paying attention to. That thought is why they have become more serious about it. Something is quietly shifting inside them. They are no longer questioning whether you are memorable because they already know that you are. Now they are asking themselves whether they are ready to move closer to what they feel before the opportunity slips away for too long. Keep going, because very few people truly understand how powerful this stage of a connection can be. This is the stage where someone starts protecting a feeling before they reveal it to the world. That is why their words might still sound completely normal on the surface, while their heart has become far louder underneath. They may talk to you calmly, but afterward they replay every word in their head. They may seem patient on the outside, but internally they are watching for every small sign. They may stay quiet for now, but quiet does not mean the feeling has disappeared. Everything they are doing right now is part of a larger effort to make sure they do not lose you. They are preparing themselves to be brave, and the moment they sense you are ready, everything they have been holding back will finally make its way to you. You matter to them more than you have ever let yourself imagine. Sometimes silence simply means someone's heart has become careful. There is another reason the idea of a shared future arrived sooner than expected. They have already seen enough to believe you are not just another ordinary person passing through their story. That is not because everything between you is flawless or because every question already has an answer. It is because something about you keeps creating a sense of emotional certainty in a world where that kind of certainty is rare. Stay with this, because something meaningful is coming. They have even pictured what it would feel like if someone else reached your heart before they found the courage to speak up. That single thought unsettled them more than they expected it to. It revealed something important, which is that the idea of losing the possibility of you feels far heavier than they were willing to admit at first. That realization eventually became impossible to brush off. That is why they have been paying closer attention to the small details about you lately. They watch for changes in your tone, shifts in your attention, distance in your silence, or anything hidden behind your smile. Once someone starts imagining a future, even the smallest signals begin to carry real weight. What might surprise you most is that they may not even realize how visible this has become through their own energy. There are moments when they turn unexpectedly thoughtful right after hearing from you. There are moments when your smallest response shifts their mood more than it probably should. There are even moments when one brief exchange stays lodged in their thoughts for hours afterward. That kind of reaction does not happen without a real reason behind it. Keep reading, because the heart does not keep circling back to someone this often unless there is something deeper driving it. There is something else they have not admitted even to themselves. They trust what they feel around you more than they trust a lot of what they hear from other people. That trust built up quietly over time. It formed once they noticed that being around you does not create confusion or stress inside them. Instead, it brings a kind of focused calm and a genuine, compelling curiosity about what comes next for the two of you. That curiosity is why they have stopped seeing you only through the lens of the present. They are starting to think past today, past ordinary conversation, past passing contact. They are asking themselves what would still remain if time kept moving forward and this feeling kept growing alongside it. Stay with this, because the answer to that question is exactly what they are slowly working their way toward. The main reason their thoughts about a future together have grown stronger is that something in them believes you arrived at exactly the moment they were ready to feel things differently. Before now, they might have ignored a similar feeling. Before now, they might have walked away from a real possibility too soon. Before now, they might have protected themselves too heavily from the risk of caring about someone. But something has shifted. Instead of stepping back, they are standing still and watching to see what this feeling becomes. When someone stops running from their own emotions, that is usually when everything starts to change. That is why the next phase of this might catch you off guard, because what has stayed quiet cannot remain hidden forever. Something is moving closer to the surface. It is thoughtful. It is sincere. The person carrying these feelings for you is far closer to clarity now than they were even a day ago. What they are holding back is no longer confusion. It has become a decision slowly taking shape behind the scenes of otherwise ordinary moments, because with every day that passes, it becomes harder for them to pretend that what they feel can stay small or hidden away. There are feelings people can put off for a while, but there are other feelings that come back stronger every time silence tries to bury them. This has turned into exactly that kind of feeling. Keep reading because something significant is still ahead. A quiet realization reached them not long ago. Your presence has started shaping the way they picture real peace. It is not only about excitement, and it is not only about temporary happiness. It is about a deep, steady sense of calm. It is the kind of peace people only notice once someone has started to matter to them in a way that is hard to fully explain. That realization caught them off guard. It happened without warning, maybe while they were alone, maybe while remembering some small detail connected to you, or maybe during an entirely ordinary moment that suddenly felt different because a memory of you slipped in uninvited. Once that happened, they understood something important. This is no longer just about emotion. It is about real meaning. Stay with this, because there is still more beneath the surface. The reason their thoughts keep getting more serious is that they quietly tested what life felt like when they tried not to think about you. And they discovered that it simply does not hold. Your presence keeps coming back to them. Your words keep returning. Even conversations that never finished seem to circle back on their own. That repetition has become something they can no longer wave away. What surprises them even more is noticing how naturally you have started fitting into plans they never used to share with anyone else, plans involving time, stability, personal growth, and where their life is heading. That kind of thing does not happen when someone stays an ordinary presence in your life. It happens when someone starts occupying an emotional space that is difficult to replace. Keep going, because the next part explains why their heart is moving faster than their words are. They are afraid of getting the timing wrong, but they are even more afraid of waiting too long. Somewhere underneath it all, they know that certain connections can grow fragile if they are left unattended for too long. That awareness has made them more alert than they have been in a long time. They pay close attention to you now. They notice your reactions and your energy. They notice when your attention feels warm and when it feels distant. Not because they want control over the situation, but because they are trying to understand whether what they feel internally could actually become real. While they quietly do this, something else is happening too. Hope has moved into the space where caution used to sit. That is why even the smallest signs from you now carry unusual weight for them. A quick reply, a small smile, a detail you did not expect them to remember. To someone carrying a growing feeling, those small things become surprisingly powerful. Stay with this, because something meaningful is coming. There is a specific moment they replay in their mind more often than they would probably admit. It was a moment where you were simply yourself, without trying to impress anyone or perform for the room. That moment stayed with them because it revealed something they deeply trust, which is your authenticity. Authenticity tends to create attachment far faster than perfection ever could. That is why their thoughts about you are not limited to how you look. They think about how you make ordinary moments feel different, and that difference has become genuinely hard for them to forget. Not long ago, they also noticed something that unsettled them a little. Even surrounded by plenty of noise and other people, one thought connected to you rises above the rest. This caught them off guard, because they did not expect your presence in their mind to grow stronger instead of fading with time. But instead of fading, it deepened. That is why the idea of a shared future no longer feels unrealistic to them. It feels genuinely possible. Keep reading, because this next truth carries real weight. The main reason behind their growing feelings is not speed, it is recognition. They recognize something rare in how naturally your presence has settled into their thinking. There is no struggle in it, no forced explanation, no unnecessary noise. There is only a growing certainty that you showed up and quietly changed something valuable in their life. Now, they are beginning to wonder whether what they feel should stay hidden much longer. That question comes back to them often. Should they open up more? Should they move closer? Should they finally reveal what has been quietly building? Every time they ask themselves this, the answer feels a little less distant than before. Stay with this, because the next stage may arrive sooner than either of you expects. There is also something specific they are afraid of losing, which is the simplicity that currently exists between you. Sometimes when feelings run this deep, people hold back because they are terrified of disturbing something that already feels meaningful just the way it is. That is why their silence can look calm from the outside, even while everything inside them feels alert and intense. But silence cannot hold on to a growing truth forever, especially when every passing day adds more evidence, more memories, more thought, and more emotional weight. By now, even they understand that what they are carrying is no longer something temporary. Something in them has already crossed that line. That is why your name, your energy, and your presence now show up with unusual importance. Not occasionally, but consistently. And once consistency enters an emotion, a future begins forming quite naturally on its own. Keep reading, because something meaningful is still coming. Very soon, what has stayed unspoken may begin showing up through clearer actions, because feelings that are genuinely sincere always look for a way to be expressed. A longer conversation, a stronger form of attention, or a different kind of honesty may be on its way. Something is moving toward being visible. The person who once questioned what this feeling meant is now slowly arriving at a place where their heart no longer wants to deny what it already knows to be true. The most powerful part of this entire story is that while nothing may look dramatic from the outside, inside someone's heart, a future is already being quietly arranged in careful detail. The deeper they think about it, the harder it becomes for them to imagine stepping back from what they feel. There are moments they never bring up to anyone else. There are moments when they suddenly stop and wonder why your presence keeps returning to them right when they are trying to concentrate on something else entirely. It happens without warning. A familiar memory surfaces, or a sentence you once said comes back to them clearly. Even your silence carries real weight in their thoughts. Keep reading, because something meaningful is still ahead. What surprises them most is not that they think about you. It is how naturally those thoughts now show up during their most serious moments, their calmest moments, and the moments when they are deciding what actually matters in their life. That means your place in their heart is no longer something accidental. It has become tied to how they define emotional certainty for themselves. Stay with this because something rare is unfolding. Not long ago, They asked themselves a question that changed everything for them. If the chance to build something truly meaningful showed up right now, would they finally be ready to stop hesitating? That question did not just pass through and disappear. It stayed with them. Every time it resurfaced, the answer felt a little stronger than before. Each time they were honest with themselves, they arrived at the same truth. Your presence creates a kind of emotional steadiness that they do not come across easily. It is not only about loud excitement or a passing fascination. It runs much deeper than that. It is something that stays even through distance. That is why the idea of a future no longer feels sudden to them. It feels earned, built quietly through every moment that kept proving how much you matter. Keep reading, because the next truth explains why they are becoming more serious than they have ever been. Not long ago, there was a moment when they imagined what it would be like if you slowly drifted away without ever knowing how they truly feel. That thought brought an unexpected heaviness with it. That heaviness revealed something they could no longer talk themselves out of. Losing the possibility of you would hurt far more than they ever expected it to. That realization became a turning point for them. Sometimes the heart understands the value of something most clearly when it starts to imagine what losing it would actually feel like. Ever since that moment, the way they see you has changed for good. And so here you are, having read every word of this, and maybe part of you is asking why any of this landed in front of you today of all days. Maybe you already had a name in mind while reading this, someone who crossed your thoughts more than once as these words unfolded. If that happened, do not dismiss it as coincidence, because very little that reaches a person at exactly the right moment is truly accidental. What has been described here is not meant to pressure you into anything or to convince you of something that is not real. It is simply meant to put language around a feeling that may already be quietly present in your own life, whether you are the one being thought of in this way, or whether you already sense that someone has been growing closer to you in their heart, without saying so out loud. Either way, the invitation here is the same. Pay attention to the quiet signs. Notice the person who keeps returning to your thoughts without being asked to. Notice the presence that leaves peace behind, rather than confusion. Real connection rarely announces itself loudly at first. It tends to arrive slowly, gathering weight in silence before it ever finds words. If something in you responded to what you just read, let that response mean something. Trust it. Sit with it a little longer instead of rushing past it the way you might rush past most things in a busy day. Whatever is quietly forming, whether in your own heart or in someone else's, deserves the patience to unfold at its own pace. Sometimes the most important moments in a life are the ones that begin this softly, with a single lingering thought that simply refuses to fade.